Picture this: a lone monk in a cold stone chamber, condemned to be walled up alive. It's a slow, agonizing end for breaking his sacred vows. As the final stones are about to be laid, he makes a desperate, wild plea. He will create a book, a masterpiece, containing all human knowledge, and he'll do it in a single night to bring eternal glory to his monastery. It's an impossible task, but as midnight looms and his energy fades, he realizes he can't do it alone. So he makes a pact, not with God, but with the devil. This is the legend of the Codex Gigas, the book they call the Devil's Bible. For centuries, this chilling story of ambition and desperation has echoed through history. But what's the real story hidden within its massive pages? Could one man really have created something so enormous, so detailed, in just one night? Or is the truth even stranger than the legend? Let's peel back the pages and separate the myth from the reality. The legend of the damned monk. The legend, which echoed through the Middle Ages, is a classic tale of desperation. A monk, sometimes called Herman the Recluse, commits a sin so terrible that the punishment is immurement, being bricked into a wall and left to die. In his final panicked moments, he makes that unbelievable vow to create the world's greatest book in just one night. The abbot, may be curious or just ready to watch him fail, actually agrees. So the monk, recorded in the Codex as Hermanus Inclusus, gets to work. But as the hours tick by, his hand aches and his spirit breaks. Facing his doom, he makes one last, damning prayer. He summons Lucifer and sells his soul in exchange for the book's completion. The devil, so the story goes, gets it done. By morning, the colossal manuscript is finished. And as a thank you note for this dark salvation, the monk supposedly adds a little tribute, a full-page, terrifying portrait of the devil himself. This image is what sealed the book's spooky reputation for all time, turning the work of monastic devotion into an object of fear. But beyond the legend, the physical book itself is what really boggles the mind. The eighth wonder of the world. Okay, before we totally bust this myth, let's just take a moment to appreciate this absolute monster of a book. The name Codex Gigas is Latin for giant book, and they weren't kidding. It's 3 feet tall and weighs 165 pounds. You need at least 2 people just to lift it. Its cover is made of leather-bound wooden boards with decorative metal guards. Inside are 310 vellum leaves, meaning 620 pages. To get that much parchment, it said the skins of over 160 animals were needed. The legend claims they were donkeys, but it was probably calfskin. If you laid the pages out, they'd cover over 1,500 square feet. It was created in the early 13th century by a Benedictine monastery in Podlavis, in what's now the Czech Republic. The last entry in the book is dated 1222. Now, for a small, relatively modest monastery to create something this lavish, that's the first big crack in the legend. How could they possibly have afforded it? But the bigger question is still, who on earth could have written it? The work of one hand. This is where the legend really starts to fall apart. But the truth is honestly just as mind-blowing. Modern analysis of the ink and calligraphy points to something stunning. The entire book was likely written by just one person. The handwriting is incredibly consistent from beginning to end. From the Old Testament to a calendar of saints, the style shows almost no change, no sign of aging, or even just getting tired. The lettering, the spacing, the pressure, it's all unnervingly perfect. You can see why this uniformity fed the legend of its single-night creation. I mean, how could anyone maintain that level of perfection for years? Well, scholars have done the math. They estimate that just writing the text, forget the illustrations and fancy page layouts, would that taken a scribe at least 5 years of non-stop work. Realistically, when you factor in preparing the vellum, mixing the inks, planning the layouts, and creating the vibrant illustrations, you're looking at a project that took between 20 and 30 years. So, it wasn't one night of demonic help. It was likely one monk's entire adult life. The signature, Hermanus Inclusus, can be translated as Herman the Recluse, suggesting a man who chose to shut himself away to dedicate his existence to this one single task. So, it wasn't a punishment at all. It was a choice, a lifelong spiritual devotion. The real story isn't to deal with the devil. It's a story of iron will and decades of human dedication. If you're fascinated by deep dives into historical mysteries like this, make sure you subscribe Sensei Mystery and hit the bell icon so you don't miss our next investigation. What's actually inside the Devil's Bible? So, if it's not a book of dark spells dictated by Satan, what did this monk spend 30 years writing? Think of the Codex Gigas less as a single book and more like a medieval library crammed into one volume. About half of it is the complete Latin Vulgate Bible, including both the Old and New Testaments. But it's the other stuff that makes it so weird. You've got the complete works of the 1st century historian Flavius Josephus, Antiquities of the Jews and the Jewish War. You've got the Etymologia of Isidore of Seville, which was basically the Wikipedia of the 7th century. It even includes a comprehensive medical textbook, a collection of the era's most important medical knowledge, often called the Ars Medicinae. And then things get even stranger. Tucked between all this scholarly work are magic formulas and exorcism rituals. It has instructions for fighting off diseases and confronting evil spirits. So why are there spells in a Bible? You have to remember that in the medieval world, the line between faith, medicine, and magic was incredibly blurry. An exorcism guide wasn't seen as contradicting the Bible. It was a practical tool for a world they believed was full of spiritual threats. The Devil's Portrait and the missing pages. But let's be real. The reason we're all here is the illustration on page 577, the Devil's Portrait. A 19-inch tall portrait of the devil himself. He's shown squatting with a gnarly green face, red-tipped horns, and 2 long red tongues. He's wearing an ermine loincloth that's the fur of royalty, which some say is a nod to his title as the Prince of Darkness. Depicting the devil wasn't unusual in medieval art, but a portrait this huge, showing him all alone on a full page, is extremely rare. But what really makes it pop is what's on the opposite page. A beautiful, full-page illustration of the heavenly city. The contrast couldn't be more deliberate, a powerful visual smackdown between good and evil, salvation and damnation side by side. But this section holds one more secret. The Codex originally had 320 leaves. Today, it has 310. At some point, 12 full sheets, that's 24 pages, were physically cut out of the book. No one knows who took them or why, and they were taken from right after the Devil's Portrait. One theory is that they contained the boring monastic rules of the Benedictine order. But the much juicier theory is that those pages held something secret, maybe even dangerous. It is the one unanswered question that ensures the legend of the Devil's Bible will never completely fade. A Cursed Journey. A book this famous and weird was bound to have a dramatic life, and oh boy, it did. The original monastery had to pawn it to the Sedlic Abbey in 1295, just to cover its debts. Eventually, it landed in the collection of the Holy Roman Emperor Rudolf II in 1594, a ruler famous for his interest in the occult. Its biggest moment in the spotlight came during the 30 Years' War. In 1648, the Swedish army looted Prague, and the Codex Gigas was hauled off to Stockholm as war booty. There, it nearly went up in smoke during a castle fire in 1697. The only way to save it was to hurl it out of a window, and the 165-pound book reportedly landed on and injured someone below. Today, the Codex Gigas lives a much quieter life at the National Library of Sweden, safe in a climate-controlled case, a silent witness to centuries of war, myth, and human history. So, back to the big question. Was the Codex Gigas written by the devil in one night? All the evidence points to a resounding no. The legend of the monk who sold his soul is a fantastic story, born from the awe and fear that such a massive object inspired. But honestly, the truth is almost more incredible. This book isn't the result of a demonic pact. It's the product of a single person's entire life. It represents one man's obsessive quest to cram all of God's word and man's knowledge into a single volume. An act of devotion so extreme, it took nearly 30 years to finish. The legend was born from people asking, how could one man possibly do this? But science and history give us the answer, not with the devil's help, but with time, obsession, and an unbreakable human spirit. And maybe that's the most powerful story of all.